"You're not a real man, you're just a walking ATM." The words, dripping with contempt and amplified by the collective laughter of my own family, struck me like a physical blow. My brother-in-law, Wyatt, sat smugly behind the wheel of my brand-new Tesla, a car he hadn't even asked to borrow, and delivered the punchline to my sister, Samantha. The sound of their mirth, a chorus of dismissal from my mother, cousins, and the entire assembled clan, echoed in my ears. I managed a tight, brittle laugh, a nod that felt more like a concession, and walked away, every muscle in my body screaming for release. 3 days later, the phone would ring, and it would be Wyatt, screaming. But this time, it wouldn't be at me. I never imagined I'd be chronicling such a raw, intensely personal betrayal, but the silence that followed that laughter last night shattered something fundamental within me. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic explosion. It was the culmination of years of insidious erosion. You know those quiet moments when a single, seemingly insignificant pebble finally tips the scales? This wasn't a pebble. This was a boulder, crushing the last vestiges of my patience. My name is Ezra, and at 38, I've built my life on hard work and quiet determination. While Wyatt, my sister Samantha's husband, flitted from one get-rich-quick pipe dream to the next, each one more ludicrous and ultimately ruinous than the last, I was methodically constructing a successful career. I started in tech, coding through sleepless nights, then pivoted into real estate development, transforming derelict properties into thriving communities. My success isn't about bragging. It's simply a testament to the sweat and sacrifice I poured into every endeavor. Samantha, despite her own master's degree, always chose to be Wyatt's visionary partner, sacrificing her professional ambitions for his fleeting, ill-conceived ventures. Over the past 5 years, Wyatt's parasitic presence had become a constant, draining fixture in my life. He'd borrowed my previous car, returning it with a mysterious, unexplainable dent, his eyes innocent as a lamb. He'd extracted countless short-term loans, sums I knew, even as I handed them over, would never see repayment. Furniture, high-end electronics, even my prized PlayStation, all disappeared into the black hole of his supposed needs. But the deepest wound was the way he'd infiltrated my family, weaving a deceptive narrative about investing in my companies, subtly implying his strategic genius was somehow responsible for my triumphs. He even preyed on my mother, Isa, manipulating her into trusting him with her entire life savings, only for her to lose every penny in one of his golden opportunities. The most galling part? My mother, blinded by a toxic mix of denial and misplaced loyalty, actually blamed me for her financial ruin, claiming I should have warned her about Wyatt, despite my repeated, desperate attempts to do so. Samantha, ever the enabler, always rushed to his defense. "He's just trying to make a living, Ezra. He has big dreams." Big dreams, perhaps, but built on the shattered hopes of everyone around him. The collective laughter last night, echoing with their shared disdain, was the final, agonizing twist of the knife. I walked away from the family gathering, the forced pleasantries dissolving into a bitter taste in my mouth, and drove straight to my sanctuary, a secluded vacation home nestled in the quiet mountains, a place I'd meticulously designed and paid for with the very ATM funds they so readily mocked. It was there, waiting patiently on my doorstep, that I found the package, a slim, unassuming box containing the culmination of months of meticulous work by Mila, my private investigator. Mila, a woman whose razor-sharp intellect and unwavering dedication had become my last, best hope. The file she'd compiled wasn't just a collection of documents. It was a blueprint for liberation. I wasn't merely going to cut them off financially. I was going to dismantle Wyatt's carefully constructed house of cards, brick by deceitful brick. I would ensure he faced every single consequence of his actions, a reckoning that had been long overdue, and would be delivered with surgical precision. My plan was simple, yet devastating. I would send copies of everything I had on Wyatt, every fraudulent transaction, every defaulted loan, every scam, to every single person he had ever scammed. The list was long. Very long. Sleep was a foreign concept that night. By the first gray light of dawn, my resolve was absolute. I transferred every single cent from our joint accounts into my private, secure personal accounts. Then, I contacted my lawyer, a man renowned for his steely resolve in contentious cases. I crafted a meticulously detailed email to my mother outlining, with irrefutable evidence, Wyatt's true financial history, his long-standing patterns of manipulation, and the devastating impact he'd had on her. I attached a copy of the legal documents from Mila's investigation, leaving no room for doubt. Wyatt's number was blocked. My mother's number was blocked. Samantha's number was blocked. The time for apologies, for explanations, for futile attempts at reconciliation, was over. The bridges were not merely burned, they were obliterated, leaving only scorched earth in their wake. The next day, my phone, usually a silent sentinel, became a frantic symphony of ringing. Wyatt's name flashed across the screen, an endless torrent of calls, each one bursting with rage and empty threats of legal action, accusations that I was single-handedly ruining his life. He hurled every vulgar epithet imaginable into the digital void. I watched the calls, unblinking, and did not answer. Then, Samantha's name appeared, followed by a torrent of tearful voicemails, her voice thick with confusion and genuine bewilderment, even after she'd presumably seen the evidence. "He's my husband, Ezra. How could you do this?" she sobbed. "He's a scammer, Samantha," I replied, my voice a steady, unyielding current. "And he's been taking advantage of you, and everyone else, for years. You chose to ignore it, to defend him, to enable his deceit." "But Mom lost everything," she wailed, clinging to the only piece of the narrative she could still grasp. "And who do you think is truly responsible for that?" I asked, my voice laced with the cold, hard edge of steel. "You defended him, Samantha. You enabled him. This is on him, and on you for standing by his side through every lie and every betrayal." The line went silent. She hung up, a hollow echo of her shock lingering in the air. The following morning, a single text appeared from my mother. It simply read, "Ezra, I saw the documents. I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. It was too late. The damage was done. The healing, if it ever came, would not involve me." 3 days later, the phone was screaming again. Not my phone, but Samantha's. Wyatt was screaming at her. The carefully constructed facade he'd maintained for years was finally crumbling, revealing the rot beneath. Samantha had finally come face to face with the ugly reality of his schemes, the fraudulent second mortgage he'd taken out on their house without her knowledge, his spiraling, secret gambling debts, the devastating truth that he was moving in with her aunt next week because they could no longer afford their own place. "I should have listened to you," she whispered into a voicemail, her voice breaking, fractured by the weight of her belated realization. "When I was helping her pack, I was so busy defending him that I couldn't see what he really was." I didn't respond. Some realizations, however profound, arrive too late to matter, their impact dulled by the passage of time and the depth of past hurt. And the final, definitive nail in Wyatt's coffin. Remember those boxes of personal belongings he'd so nonchalantly removed from my vacation home? They contained not cherished keepsakes, but meticulous evidence of an even grander scheme. More fake documents, more forged signatures, an entire new round of scams meticulously prepared and ready for deployment. I made sure every single investigator on Mila's extensive network received precise copies of the contents of those boxes. Yesterday, Wyatt was arrested. Not for the family scams, which are still being painstakingly investigated, their tendrils reaching far and wide. He was arrested for a different kind of scam entirely, attempting to flee the country with a substantial sum of stolen funds. They apprehended him at the airport, a paltry $50,000 in cash clutched in his sweaty hand, a one-way ticket to a non-extradition country tucked into his passport. Mila and I are getting married next spring. The ceremony will be held at my vacation home, the very sanctuary Wyatt once used as a staging ground for his deceit. Samantha will not be invited. Neither will my mother. Some bridges, once burned to ash, should remain that way, a stark reminder of what happens when trust is shattered beyond repair. Wyatt is facing up to 15 years in prison. Both of his ex-wives, emboldened by my actions, are testifying against him. Every family he has ever harmed, every individual he has swindled, is now a witness against him, their collective voices a resounding chorus of condemnation. His assets are frozen, his reputation irrevocably wrecked, his intricate web of lies exposed for the world to see. And me? I am finally, truly, done being anyone's ATM. The bank, in question, has been permanently closed for business.